Don't forget cards at RitaYanez.com, and so am I. Under your bed. Turn on the light! Turn on the light! Turn on the light! Hi there, Gemini. This is your weekly reading for the week of December 14th through 20th. I hope you're having a wonderful week and that your start to the holiday season has been lovely. I still haven't put up any Christmas decorations, but my mother did show up with a really beautiful wreath that she made for me and the kids. So with that said, we start off the week on Monday with the Queen of Swords in reverse. This could be an air sign woman like yourself. This could be somebody who is Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. This could also just be the way this person comes across as someone who is in a position to communicate, perhaps with authority. And in this case, of course, we know that she's abusing authority in some way. So with that said, don't let this be you. Of course, it usually isn't. You guys really aren't fighters. I think that once you get pushed to the edge, though, you will fight and say what you need to. Probably something ugly would be to see a Gemini pushed over the edge, because usually we think they're running around singing, girls just want to have fun. And we're like, yeah, whatever. And then when it's time to be serious, once somebody has pushed it with them, then they go off the edge and they really want to do square off and fight. So the Queen of Swords in reverse could be indicating that you're feeling either, if you're a female, that you're coming across this way, or you feel like any minute you're going to say what you really mean. And if you're a male, it could be that this is a female in your life, and this could be a person in a position of authority over you. And it could just be somebody in your relationship, like a mother-in-law, a sister-in-law. Somebody else could be bringing these types of energies to you. And of course, if you have children and your life is set and everything is perfect, it could be that these are situations playing out in their lives and you're watching this, or you're kind of getting tired of watching somebody be the proverbial underdog. And that might be why you have the urge to speak up. And we'll talk about how to temper what you need to say and probably should say with wisdom. And sometimes we have to remember that we need to choose our battles wisely. There could be an element here of suffering fools. And I've had to learn the hard way over time that there are just some people that I won't suffer any longer. And I just have had to even go about this year, 2015, cutting people like that out of my life because they were nothing but trouble. And so that might be what you have to do. So of course, when we're pruning a rose bush at about this time of year here in North America, then of course we're looking for the right location and the right timing. And that might be what you need to keep in mind. The Sun in Sagittarius squaring Jupiter in Virgo is almost like a mantra for you to remember. Sagittarius is your solar 7th house. So that would be partnerships, very close friendships, business alliances, anybody that you have somehow partnered up with. It could be that you live with a relative and that's who you've partnered up with. You could see this energy manifest if you lived with your sister and you guys were best friends and decided to always live together and split expenses. The reason why it could be somewhat problematic is that the square is to Jupiter in Virgo, and Virgo is your solar 4th house. And Jupiter there could cause things to be blown out of proportion. So you and I could be cleaning up the kitchen and I say, well, look at this. Every time I turn around, there is pepper under one of these appliances. And you turn around and say, you know what? What's your point? Are you telling me that I suck as a housekeeper? Is this personal? Rita, finally tell me what it is. And I'm like, damn, I was just kind of whistle while you work and made an observation. So that's the way that this energy could manifest. Also keep in mind that the 4th house of Virgo, solar 4th house here, also is hosting the North Node. So we need to keep an eye on this, and we'll talk about this, of course. Mercury in Capricorn, your solar 8th house of death, taxes, transformation, community assets, conjoined assets, joint assets, joint bank accounts, joint ventures, and even divorces, which ultimately become a joint venture to separate, right? That's what the 8th house is. And it sextiles Neptune and Pisces, your solar 10th house. So, you could find yourself feeling that you're in the wrong career, and for some reason it seems tied into your partner, whether that partner is your spouse or long-term cohabitating partner, or your best friend friendship, or you and your sister, that energy. Somehow there's a tie here, and you're feeling like, maybe if you both work at the same location, you're thinking, maybe I need to not work there because I don't even have a personal life. I work with this person. I have to see their mug every day. At first, it was cute. Now it's not cute anymore. And this could even go back to 2007. This could have a few different points where we've been, looking at it in terms of who are you working with and why does it become somewhat tied into the partnership. And it could be that you've got a bagel bakery with that person who you're married to, and you're realizing that you guys need time apart. And that might be exactly what you need, but we need to make sure that we're tempering it at all times, because obviously this time of year, people's nerves are already frazzled. People are already running around doing too many things. And then they got to put that stamp on that Christmas card, if you can afford the postage, right? And get these things out there. And then it becomes more of a frustration. Then it becomes the reason for the season. And then at the end of the day, nobody remembers. And so we're going to keep in mind also that Mars and Libra could be challenging here, your 5th house of relationships. Also, the romantic type, that it wouldn't necessarily be your long-term partnership, but new romances and children's issues and creativity, and your siblings, of course, from your own life, from your own childhood. There are lots of issues here that we will keep in mind, because it's going to have a little bit of a seal of approval that we have to talk about. On Tuesday, we've got the Knight of Wands in reverse, and this is a card that could indicate running at the mouth, or promising more than you can deliver, or feeling like you're cornered into baking 32 cakes for 15 families, and something crazy that sounded like a good idea at the time. It also is one of those positions that I'm not a tattoo person, but I've noticed something with people who get tattoos. They later, when you ask them about it, well, what made you think that a mole rat on your shoulder, or is that a weasel? Why? And they're like, well, I seemed like a good reason at the time. And you would call this a Knight of Wands in reverse moment? Yeah, it probably would be, because we tend to do things kind of off the cuff without thinking of the repercussions. Now, if you've got all the money in the world and you like pain or scarring, and you go get this thing removed, then okay, fine. But this actually goes a little bit deeper. Like, what is the tiny rebellion about? What is the thing that you're rebelling over? And in this case, it could have something to do with that 5th house of children and creativity and children's issues and romance. And maybe you got a tattoo on your ass of your boyfriend's name, and then you find out that he's really not a guy, he's a girl. And, then you got this whole mess. So my suggestion would be to make sure that you are not too impulsive, because Mars and Libra could have you doing something that, quote unquote, seemed like a good idea at the time. Suddenly you've got like bat wings or a demon on your boob. And you're like, what the, that's the kind of thing that could happen here. And it could be as a result of either the romantic partnering, or maybe you've got a 25-year-old daughter and she got a tattoo of a poltergeist on her ass. I don't know what people do. And then later it's like, oh, I'm going to go get one too. And then you go have like Ghostbusters on your other butt cheek. And then everybody's like, what are you guys doing? This isn't even a good example for your children. And then you're sitting there going, and now everybody at work, which is a very likely scenario, or everybody in a social setting, of course, Uranus and Aries could also at the same time have you doing some very spontaneous things that, again, seemed like a good idea at the time, except in this case, it's much more visible, and probably people at work are going to know about this. So think twice about getting like, Goliath on your leg, or whatever it is that people do here, because Mars, again, could make you very impulsive. Or then maybe one of your kids comes up to you and says, what the hell is with Satan on your breast? Like, I don't understand you. And then all of a sudden it becomes an argument. And, sometimes those things that seem like a good idea at the time, it reminds me of former model Stephanie Seymour. And I always remember it was slightly disgusting when she was dating Axl Rose. And I think at that time she rebelled. And at the time, a tiny rebellion would have been her little tattoo on her ankle, believe it or not. That wasn't that long ago. And then when she's out of that phase with this crazy guy and the drugs and the craziness, and I guess he's okay now and he's not on drugs anymore, then she ends up with some blue blood in Europe. And then I heard a story about she was out there at some polo match or something and wanted to die and sink 6 feet under because somebody had noticed and she'd forgotten about covering the tattoo on her ankle. And it sounds like a whole lot of, I don't give a shit what people say, but sometimes it does matter. And if it doesn't manifest like is Satan on your ass or something else that you do, it could be an opinion that you give or a romance started with somebody that you met through work or a social function. And oops, then you find out later, well, actually that is your supervisor's fiance, and you're like, oh my God. You could imagine, seemed like a good idea at the time. Wednesday, we have the Eight of Cups, which indicates kind of a calm and accepting departure from some situation that might hold a kind of emotional tie. And so the Eight of Cups will usually indicate that a person has made some peace with the situation. Maybe they didn't want out of a marriage, for example, and they decide finally, like, you know what, I realize we are just wrong for each other, and maybe we just need to part as friends here. Or, one of them may be acting like the enemy, but it isn't you. Regardless of what the situation is, which of course would be very dependent on what your own transiting astrology is, I will give you an indication here as we get into Thursday, because it seems like by Thursday you've communicated something important, or it could be communicated to you, and it could be about your children, that kind of thing. Either seemed like a good idea at the time, or I just had an affair with this married person and oh my God, I don't know what I was thinking, but now I've ruined my marriage. And so on Thursday we've got Venus in Scorpio, which is your solar 6th house of work and daily activities. It could also be your health, and it could be small pets at home and any other number of issues, but it is the influence of whatever we do routinely every day to whatever end, whether for the paycheck or to be in service to a family member, etc. Venus in Scorpio here is sextiling Pluto and Capricorn, your solar 8th house. So there could be a real discussion about the job that we both work at, that we both need to leave, or we live together and one of us, we need to somehow switch our schedules because I sleep during the day because I work at night, you sleep at night because whatever, these conflicting schedules could be easily solved at this point. The only difference is that with the the Ace of Swords involved here, we could say things too forcefully. So remember that Venus in Scorpio is the spoonful of sugar that makes the medicine go down. Use it on yourself first, right? Before you give it to somebody else. Make sure you sweeten it. Take the edge off it. No pun intended. It just turned out that way. And remember also, again, that Mars there in Libra, your solar 5th house of the romance, the creativity, the children's issues, the home environment, siblings, the other people living in the house together. We want to make sure that we don't end up in a Uranus kind of standoff, because Uranus and Aries gets people doing a hell of a lot of damage with the Ace of Swords. They go off and say, you know what? And we've been married for 10 years and I hate you. I can't stand the fact that, you have to drive me to work because you think it's a better idea to keep the insurance costs down. We only have, and I want my own time. I can't stand this anymore. I've decided I want out. And didn't you notice I had an 8 of Cups yesterday moment, and I'm feeding off of it today. There you go. Because we could say some very abrupt things this way. You'll probably be honest, if not accurate. You may be honing in on your partner, the one closest to you, which could be, of course, it's kind of like a draw between whether it's your boyfriend, girlfriend, romantic kind of casual dating thing, or if it is your own actual spouse, cohabitative partner kind of thing, co-worker, roommate, whatever the situation is. And we could have, again, this challenging aspect where you might even look at the situation and say, this person is so immature, don't ask me what I saw in him. Or you could be hearing that yourself, like, I thought it was a good idea at the time. And yet, you know what, you're so immature and you're like, damn, I thought you liked that about me. And then you realize that you've grown apart. It doesn't have to manifest this way. Like I said, it could be that you're watching it happen in somebody's life that's very close to you. It could be happening to your children, or you find out that this couple that acted like they were always so together, suddenly you find out at work because these people work with you or you work with one of them, that it turns into this really big thing, and all of a sudden it's like out of control. So just keep that in mind as well, because there's so much emphasis, not only with the sun in Sagittarius, your solar seventh house, which is like a freaking spotlight on all of the issues regarding that partnership. It could be regarding a frenemy as well. It could be an enemy right out in the open, and this comes up and it's in your face. But with so much emphasis, like I said, on the fourth house, which is the home environment, the stability of the thing, that could be somehow knocked off balance with Mars and Aries, and somebody's good idea at the time might be a slap across the face with, the front and the back of a hand. And or it could be telling the truth, or actually standing up for yourself in a divorce that is the product of this situation that you're dealing with. On Friday, we've got the Nine of Pentacles in reverse. And the Nine of Pentacles in reverse might be where you're like, you know what, I would be so much better off on my own. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen for everybody, but there is going to be a good majority of you who are able to say that you want to just roll up your sleeves and tackle alone. Let's just give it something that would be a little bit more funny for some of us. But for many of you that are in good, stable, partnered marriages, you are able, because you're intelligent and very communicative, to turn your frustration from this person's laziness or immaturity onto the issue that really is the 3-car garage that can't have any vehicles parked in it. And that happened to me before. I had a 3-car garage. My second husband had criticized the first husband for not being able to keep that thing tidy. And then literally when we're trying to sell the house and get out of there, because it's actually already sold, and that I never had been able to get my vehicles in there. There was one broken vehicle that until my brother came and fixed it, there was one in there kind of. And then this person had created the same nightmare. And then both of them, I had the same issue where it was like, we can't even figure out what's here. Just load that crap on a trailer and throw it away, because now we gotta go. And that could be where you're able to direct this frustration onto an inanimate situation like the garage that is a nightmare. And here we are in winter, and you just know that the mice and other vermin are going to hole up, ball up, and do whatever disgusting things they do inside your, silencing ear muffs for shooting, or whatever it is that's in the garage. And this could also be where you really feel that you have to make a stand for yourself. And let me tell you where you might want to temper this again. I'm giving you both sides. I'm almost like giving you the gloves and telling you, go at it, pop him in the face because he needs to hear. And yet at the same time, I'm saying, boy, I don't want to send this person off to start World War III. But the sun in Sagittarius, that house of partnering and intimate friendships, relationships, people close to you, and enemies right out in the open, could be stimulating something that has to do with the fourth house of Virgo. Okay, your home and your home base environment, the stability of your physical home, because the north node in Virgo, of course, opposite the south node in Pisces, your 10th house of career, where you seem to be wanting to correct something here that upsets you. There could be an instability, because the challenge is then, how do I integrate what the stability of this home life, this family is? Maybe you don't want to kill your husband or your wife. Maybe you're just like, yeah, they irritate the crap out of me, but that's how I met him, and that's how I'm gonna, when I bury him, that's exactly the same thing. It isn't a big deal. But then you seem to be wanting to do something outward that may not go very well at home. Although I'm gonna have to tell you that you need to focus on your fourth house. You do need to focus on your family, and you do need to focus on healing whatever those rifts are, because it seems to me if you go out there, and I know that this is a challenging situation, I'm not making light of it, but let's say you just want to throw yourself into your job at the tanning salon because you get free tans, and then you don't get home until 8:30 at night, and you throw a pizza on the counter. That's not dinner, so somehow a compromise has to be made. Either if you really do need to work and you guys do need the money from the tanning salon job, then you guys are going to have to spend the weekends cooking and freezing it. I do that, and it's just me and 3 sons, and one of them I don't see a lot, so I still end up cooking and freezing. I'll make giant batches of chicken soup. I'll make giant batches of specific pasta dishes that my kids like, giant batches of anything that I can cook all at once. And then I'll freeze, like if I make a bunch of, what is it that the kids like? They like me to make this chow mein dish. I'll make frickin' 3 pounds of chow mein, and then I freeze it, and it actually was born of a habit I used to have. And then we have this giant, like, commercial size refrigerator, which is just a beast on its last legs. And so then we do need to, in the summer, specifically freeze things so that, they have a longer shelf life. And that might be part of this. I can do it alone. I would do it better. Or we need to figure out how we're going to have this independence from each other at least some of the time so that we don't really kill each other. Wake up in the middle of the night with one of those, I want to call them the Twinkie defenses, but this is the sleepwalking defense. Don't listen to me. I'm going to give you bad ideas, so I don't want you to hear them. Saturday, we've got the Nine of Wands here. And we're still working off of this Venus and Scorpio, which is creating a quincunx or inconjunct aspect to Uranus and Aries. Again, what I'm going to suggest to you is that if you are invited to, for example, some holiday parties at work, or you're in an environment where something harmless could turn into a freaking boiling cyst kind of ugly thing, out there ready to explode in front of everybody, then don't go. You could be feeling really good about yourself and have your flirt on. And again, a scenario where you're flirting with some boss's nephew or fiance or something weird. So be very careful. Now, the Nine of Wands following this Nine of Pentacles obviously shows me that something very quickly turns from Friday night to Saturday. So it could be that you actually went to the company dinner buffet thing, and then you show up and then somebody, oh boy, this is the stupidest thing ever, to mix alcohol and any function, obviously, unless, I used to work with a bunch of executives that were just fine and they got into their own mischief, and so did I. True story. I'll have to tell you about it sometime. But this is a situation where you might want to consider that if you're feeling defensive, it could be either that you created a situation that is somewhat, standoffish, and it could be that somebody else did it to you. Again, I really don't know how to call it because it looks like it could go either way, which of course could mean that, large groups of people and their romantic situations, their work situations, and their partnering situations seem somehow tied together. So just keep in mind that where we need to make an adjustment has to do with Scorpio, your solar 6th house, and Uranus in Aries, your solar 11th house. So work, and then the social groups of the people that you hang out with, or the people that you work with, you never see them until the Christmas party or company party where somebody gets drunk and falls in the parking lot and pisses themselves. That's, that's the kind of party I'm talking about. Sunday, we've got the star in reverse, and I'm not too worried about it actually, because to me, we already are aware that we're going into Mercury retrograde shadow about the 19th anyway. So right there over the weekend, you'd probably only notice it if you were going shopping for Christmas presents and forgot the rules. I know it sounds redneck as all get out, but tie your wallet to your belt with a chain, or, because things like this could happen. Don't leave the store or even the counter without physically putting your debit card or other cash back in the wallet or purse. Put it back in the purse or pocket, and then ask yourself the question before you even walk away from the counter: do I have everything? It could be that you leave a purchase behind, obviously. It could be that you lose some gift cards. I remember my son's ex-fiance one year, poor baby. I adored her, and this was just the saddest thing to see. My son had bought her like $300 in various gift cards, like Victoria's Secret and a few different places that she liked to shop at, and she was shopping for Christmas presents and lost them. She left her wallet at a counter, and all $300 in gift cards were they disappeared. You know how quick that would happen. You don't even have to be like in Los Angeles to see that happen that fast anywhere where somebody leaves a wallet. And so that's the thing that could happen too. Ongoing also, of course, the big news is Mercury conjunct Pluto in Capricorn, your solar 8th house. I could tell you what. Of course, this is a very potent combination. It still is going to be potent for some time. So if you are in a situation where you're repaying some taxes or something, don't fight with the man. Just get it done. If you are in a situation where you are still dealing with the effects of a divorce or a separation, where you still have some issues that are being cleaned up, then make it a priority to once a week check on the status of some credit reports or cleaning up, or whatever intervals that you set this at. It will help keep your anxiety level down. Whenever the 8th house is stimulated, I've noticed that people get a little anxious because they feel like they need to try to control it all, and yet at the same time, with Mercury here sitting right next to Pluto in Capricorn, you know that it wants to dig up details and it wants to dig up information that could be transformative, but it sucks to have to look at it right in the beginning when it's like, oh crap, seriously, I answer the phone and it's a debt collector. That's an 8th house Mercury and Pluto there kind of digging things up, which doesn't mean that you just have to admit that it's your debt. In fact, you should make them validate that it belongs to you and verify what it is, because it could be something that belongs to a spouse of yours, former spouse, and it's coming to you. You got to say, hey, look, Sherlock, this person is my husband's ex-wife and she lives over here. Go find her there. It's not his debt. And then, send them off in the direction that they belong if you're sure of it. Uranus, again, is retrograde in Aries there, of course, at 11th house. And it's squaring Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, which I'm only stating that they're retrograde for the purpose of this square, is that there could be some surprising developments, again, with something that you really don't want people to know, and yet somehow it's conjoined to people at work, and it probably is better that you don't say anything. If you say, Rita, it sounds like everything, all signs point to I shouldn't go, well, then suit yourself. If you feel like you'd rather just spend some time pampering yourself, tell your employer that you've got explosive diarrhea and you really hate to not make it, but you got to go to the store and get yourself some diarrhea remedy. And if that way you've got an alibi if they happen to see you at IHOP, or if somebody saw you at the mall. Well, I already crapped my pants. I might as well go buy a birthday present for so-and-so. And then also you might feel this shadow in terms of some information coming up, like I said, with the 8th house, but at the same time, I'm going to tell you that it could be very erroneous or incorrect, otherwise incorrect information. So don't just say, fine, screw it, screw you, collecting person, here's your $50, because you probably don't owe it. And there might be more to the process that you haven't given time to, like saying, hey, I owe this. You're saying I owe this. Go ahead and mail it to me at this P.O. box or whatever address you give them, and saying, you better show me freaking proof that I owe. And then look up the statute of limitations for old debts in your state, because you could be pleasantly surprised or unpleasantly reminded that you have to pay something off. But don't do it without checking first, because like I said, there could be some kind of surprising element to this. And look, if somebody ever calls your house, I tell people, why you be answering phone numbers that are not known to you, that are hidden, where it's blocked on the way out. So I don't answer the phone if I don't know who's calling me. And even if there's a lot of numbers I won't answer anyway. Just suit yourself. And remember that for you, I think it's going to become a little bit more transformative this season in terms of what your communications are, and figuring out really who are your friends, who are your foes, who are these freaking people. If you married into this group of people and you're like, what the, redneck nightmare over here, then think about what it is about that person that attracted you to begin with. Because Gemini, with the emphasis of the winter solstice starting in your 12th house, solar astrology would make that Taurus. You might find that you attracted somebody that, even though I don't want to say that it means that likes attract likes, it could be that there was a lesson here, and maybe part of that lesson is to tell that person to, put the shirt on, cover up the wife beater, and put the beer away, because we're going to a company party, right?